Hey, good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Welcome to all the new people. Welcome to everybody who has just joined on, who has recently joined on YouTube and over on Patreon. It's great to have you all both places. I had started. I'm not going to start this with telling about how to get my books because there's something much more important that I want to share with you today. I had a different video in mind to do this morning, and but first, the first thing that I always do is check the comments that came in overnight, and I came across a couple of really great ones, but I came across one of the most outstanding, I think, comments I have ever received, and it was and it is such that I think that it's the perfect subject for today. It's from Voodoo Queen, and at the end of after this, I'm also going to give a tag on a little bit to and about Cynthia over at Roots, Rocks, and Feathers. So anyway, one time, Voodoo Queen, and I forget what it was, she said, please don't take my screen name to suggest anything. She says, I'm a Christian, and I don't want you to misunderstand the Voodoo Queen reference, and sometime I'll explain it to you. Well, in this she does. First, she asks a question that I'm gonna read that, and then I'm gonna answer. It's not gonna take but a minute, and then I'm gonna read the rest of the bulk of her comment, and it is just amazing. I want to say right up front, Voodoo Queen, your comment blessed me today. It did, and it's going to bless everyone else, and that's the reason that I'm reading this, because I know that not everybody reads all the comments. It's going to bless everyone who hears this. Okay. So she starts out with her question. She said, I had an eye-opener a few weeks ago. I had to put one of my older dogs down, and digging a hole deep enough was impossible for me. I dug about 6 inches down, and the ground was so hard I wasn't getting anywhere. This had to be a large hole because I have large dogs. Well, at the end, I had to call a friend to bring out his bobcat, and he was even having a hard time getting the hole 3 feet deep. We buried the dog, and while he was there, I am having him dig 2 more spots out for me because I have 5 dogs left, and 2 are about the same size and age of my boxer that passed. Okay, my thought is, what if I have to bury a person for some reason? What a task that would be. I plan on possibly having my friend dig a couple of holes in the back of the property this spring. I have 31 acres of timber. I could fence around the holes. What are your thoughts if they were ever needed in a crisis situation? Not a pleasant topic, but a necessary one. You know, it's not a pleasant topic for us today, but it was a normal topic for generations past. First off, I think your idea is great in a situation. You know, this is one of the things that I have not addressed in the Stonemont series. And I have been thinking about it. So it's interesting that you bring this up. First off, I think that you're exactly right. If everything goes down, we're not going to. I mean, you know, embalming and the you know, what do you call them? It's too early in the morning for my brain to be working, but we're not going to have those services available, the funeral service available to us. And way back in the day, family cemeteries were common, and or you know, even more than little community cemeteries. You go to any small town, I'm thinking about down the areas where my family's from, and whether it's the church, you know, each church had their own cemetery. There's a little community one down around Truman Reservoir called Smith Bend Cemetery. That's where a lot of my family was buried until, you know, it became big business. But the family cemetery was common. And I think, and the family cemetery or the church, the small church cemetery, you know, it fits more naturally into the way of things, doesn't it, than the big business of funerals that we've come to to accept as normal nowadays. So I think that your idea is exactly right, and you've given me an idea, or you've reaffirmed my idea. I think I will cover this in one of the upcoming books. So yes, I think that's exactly right. Back, and I'm in a hurry to get to the rest of her comment here because it's important. But even as recently as my great grandmother, my mother told me about how she remembered her grandmother being, or was it her it was somebody, I forget, I don't want to lie, so I'm not sure. It was someone lying in the coffin in their parlor, and for the days for the visitation before they came to before they buried him. So anyway, death used to be much more a part of life than it is today. Now it's something we kind of farm out and try not to think about. And I think we'd do better. I think people who think about it more do better because it helps them appreciate the life that they're living now. And so enough of that, but great idea. Now I want to get to Voodoo Queen's comment here, her story really, and how she came to have that name. But this is a blessing. Get ready. She continued her comment. I thought I would tell my story, how I got the name Voodoo Queen. In 1984, I lived in the Lathrop, Missouri area. I know that area well. My grandmother was from up in Plattsburgh. It's north of Kansas City, not far from the interstate off 116 overpass. I could see out my kitchen window 4 homeless men under the overpass. It was about this time of year, late September. I noticed a small fire late in the evenings. This went on for 3 evenings. Like I said, I am an old-time canner, and my garden was winding down, and I was canning up soup and vegetable soup at this time. So I loaded up about 3 quarts of stew, went to Howard's grocery store, bought some bowls and plasticware. I proceeded to park my truck under the overpass and hollered if they would like some stew. The older man came down to talk, and I found out they were homeless vets traveling through, heading south, but had decided to stay there because they were waiting for 3 more to join up. They all came down, ate, and thanked me several times. So 2 days later, I made homemade noodles and decided to make chicken soup. I took the leftovers over to these men. This time they came down and we actually talked. One was from the Vietnam War and the other 3 were from Desert Storm. They referenced each other by tag names, Wombat, Badger, etc. During this conversation, I asked them if they needed anything, and one of the guys said he had a skin rash and chafing, if I could get him some baby powder. I said yes, and I would bring it the next day. I went home and thought about it. Then it hit me like a rock. And I tell you, Voodoo, I teared up when I read this. This is how God works. So I went to my homemade oatmeal soap, grabbed some washcloths and towels I had extra, called the manager of Stucky's truck stop, remember when Stucky's were around, told him the situation, and he gave me 8 tokens for the showers. Like I said before, I am an herbalist. I had American skullcap tincture made up for anxiety, some arnica salve for pain, and antibacterial salves for cuts and scratches. I loaded all these items up into bags and gifted them to these men. The next day I called my pastor, told him what had happened. That's when God's work began. This is how God works, folks. Many of you know that. For anybody who doesn't, this is how he does it. He uses people to do his work. Meals, laundry, extra clothes, and even an empty rental property became available. The entire community pulled together. Used furniture arrived. It was truly a miracle. One farmer offered part-time work so they could keep up the utilities. Now this all happened in about a week and a half's time. My husband got home that next weekend and I told him what had happened. At first he was angry because I could have put myself in danger, but also was proud of what I did. He wanted to meet these men, so I took him there where they were staying. That is when I got tagged as Voodoo Queen. They kept referring to me as their own guardian. At first, I didn't like the name, but after I researched it, Marie Laveau was a woman in New Orleans that took care of the medical need of her black community using herbs and natural remedies of her time. She was a strong woman that overcame many obstacles and tribulations during the slave years. To make this story short, they still live, the men, and work around the Lathrop area. Even after my husband and I moved away from that area further north, I have kept my tag name as a badge of honor to serve those that served us. To this very day, I know God was behind this miracle. I was just a tool he used. God bless. You certainly were. Excuse me half a second. Okay, I had to take a break for just a half a second. I had a friend of mine many years ago who started through seminary and had to stop because he said that he got too emotional. I suffer from that same problem, and maybe it's because of the fact that the first part of my life was so drastically different than the second part has been, and so these things tend to be extremely meaningful to me. I keep most of this stuff over on the church channel. So anyway, yes, you were the tool, but you obeyed. God works through people. Many people out there saying, "Oh, please help so-and-so, and please help so-and-so, and please help so-and-so." But God works through people, and we are his tools, and it's our willingness to put ourselves in his hands and do the work of the tool that he designates us to be, by which he blesses others. There's not enough that I can say about this, but this truly is, if there was an expanded Good Samaritan story, this would be it. It's also kind of, and not to expand on this too much, but these are also the lessons of my books, the Stonemont series. I'm not even going to hold my books up because I don't want it to detract. I don't want a commercial aspect to come into this. This was just too important. But this is what my books were about, and this is what Stonemont was about, that as people who could help other people found themselves in situations to where they were able to, and then did. Other people were blessed, and then they themselves became tools that God could use to continue that blessing to others. I've said before, and I guess this is getting off into a little bit of religion. I make no apologies for that. I tell people that the opportunity to bless others is a blessing in itself. Very often it's the blessing. As we accept that calling, as we accept that task, to help brothers and sisters who are in need, God blesses us by giving us those opportunities. First, by giving us the ability to give the help, and then giving us the opportunity to deliver that help. So, Voodoo Queen, what a comment, what a blessing. I'm sure you are going to be to everyone who hears this. I hope I didn't embarrass you in this, but thank you so much for that. Not surprisingly, I noticed that the first response to her was from Cynthia over at Roots, Rocks, and Feathers. And so this was the next thing that I was going to say. If you read the comments very often on me, I suggest you read all of them, but particularly anything that you see comes from Cynthia over at Roots, Rocks, and Feathers. The original one that I was going to make today was "Don't Let Age Hold You Back," and she delivered. She and I are both of about the same age. She's probably younger than I am, but no, hey, we're not spring chickens. But we know, she knows just like I do, the great lessons of, you're holding yourself back. It's not your age, and she is just great. And so what I want to say something to you, Cynthia, in particular, and that is, write that book. Write the book. It doesn't matter whether a blog had much attention or not. I've read your stuff, I've watched your stuff, and people out there in the world would be blessed and could be helped greatly if you would write a book. And if you need any help doing that, just ask and I'll tell you how I did it. All right? Okay, look, I'm gonna bring it to a close on that one. What a lesson from Voodoo Queen. Thank you for that. You blessed those men, and now you've blessed us. So I'm gonna call it a day here, and remind everyone that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And we see that in Voodoo Queen's story here. She lived well. She was a prepared person. She prepared well. Okay. And then she was able to live well by blessing others. And that blessing comes right back to her. And then now that blessing has come to us. All as a result of her preparedness and a God-led heart. Okay. You all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.